This is the phenomenal Christian S Arceo, and today we are reviewing the book A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. So, Charles Dickens is most widely known for The Christmas Carol, and he's considered one of the greatest of all time. On to the characters. There really is no main character in the book. It doesn't center on one character throughout the novel. It kind of shifts between different characters, but there are a few important characters, so let's get to them. So, first big character, Dr. Alexander Manetti. A Tale of Two Cities is his story. He's a very complex character. He goes from inspiring young doctor to prisoner, to guy fighting for his mind, and his family. He's really deeply affected by his past, but his love for his daughter helps him overcome his darkness in his life, and he kind of represents the power of revenge, but also represents the healing power of forgiveness and how powerful that can be. Next big character, Lucy Manette / Darnay. She is obviously both spiritually and physically beautiful. She brings out the best in people. She's not really developed, but she's the heart and soul of the book. She binds all the characters together. She's a Wonder Woman-like character who represents love and compassion. Next big character, Charles Darnay. Charles Darnay, he rejects his family history. His family is full of corrupt aristocrats. He wants to get away from that. He wants to right his family's wrongs. He has a sense of responsibility. He represents justice and duty. He's a good guy. Next guy is my personal favorite character, Sidney Carton. Sidney Carton is a guy who's wasted his whole life. He's full of regret. Lots of alcohol. And he has a strong physical resemblance to Darnay. They almost look exactly alike, except Darnay, is what Carton could have been, had he actually, lived his life, so, so Carton has no ambition, he has a really mysterious past, and his love for Lucy's family, though, is what, I guess, keeps him going. He ends up sacrificing himself to save Darnay and her family by switching out with Darnay in prison. He goes really from, wasting his life to be dying as a hero. Redemption. He died with purpose. So, the big bad of the book is Madame Defarge. She's ruthless, merciless. She doesn't seem like she doesn't look like a bad character at first. She's really quiet, doesn't really do anything, but as the book develops, you really start to see her bad side. She's kind of the reverse of Lucy. She represents revenge and vengeance. So, last big character, Ernest Defarge. He is obviously married to Madame. He wants to bring good change. He's kind of the leader of the whole revolution. He represents the rational aspect of the revolution, while his wife, kind of represents the bad part. So, some big themes in the book, obviously, are resurrection. Resurrection is probably the overriding theme in the book. It happens a lot. It obviously happens in the first book, with Dr. Manette. He comes back after being in prison from 18 years. Then it's more real through, Jerry Cruncher, who's a side character, and his job. He's literally a resurrection man. And it's also evident with Darnay. He was in trial 3 times. He was saved first by Carton, in London. Then he obviously switched with Carton so Carton could sacrifice his life. And Carton's sacrifice is very similar to Jesus's. They both died for the good of the people, Next big theme is injustice. I see specifically social injustice. The French Revolution. French Revolution is a big part of the book. It's kind of the motivation for peasants. In Paris. It's the rich are very rich and the poor are very poor. So the next big theme is duality. Duality. That's evident in the title. Like Tale of Two Cities. And the setting as well. It takes place in Paris and London, and the comparison between characters. Obviously Darnay and Carton. It looks similar, but they're not really similar people. And Defarge versus Lucy. Defarge obviously represents, darkness, while Lucy represents the light. Obviously it's also evident in the first line. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So, the setting of the book, obviously takes place in Paris and London. Paris is obviously going through the French Revolution. It's really bad. Lots of aristocrat corruption, while London's kind of peaceful. It's really peaceful. So I think the 3 conflicts in the book are man versus man, obviously Carton versus Defarge, social conflict, there's the French Revolution, the peasants, angry, and the man versus man, it's with Carden. He kind of struggles, to find purpose, but he eventually finds it in the end. So, yeah, obviously the recommendation of the book, I think it's a pretty good book, a book that really picks up at the end. Really big fan, really big fan of the ending, love the ending, really inspiring. I would give the rating a 7.5. Obviously, it kind of took a while to get going. The beginning, I'm not gonna lie, was really boring. So, but yeah, I would read this book if you're a big fan of history. Obviously it takes place before and during the French Revolution. I would always also read this book if you're a big fan of like redemption. Seeing Carden's story unfold is pretty cool. So, yeah, and obviously, as you can see, the song that's playing in the background, here's a quick fun fact. The song that's playing in the background is A Tale of Two Cities by J. Cole. It's kind of a similar, his song has similar themes to the book, which is why he called it that. J. Cole is phenomenal. You should check him out.